All right. Good afternoon, everybody. We're back for part two of our Turbo Talk series today. And the second part will actually be led by Paula Mitchell, who's going to be talking about the CDBG programs that were just released by the state of Iowa. They update their programs every so many years. And we have been waiting on this announcement for a while, so it's exciting news. And then just as a quick reminder, I don't think that we have anybody on who is from Iowa City or Cedar Rapids, but the programs that we're going to be talking to only apply to non-entitlement cities. And so those are cities of 50,000 or less. So if you are from Cedar Rapids or Iowa City, these programs would not apply to you. So just as an FYI. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Paula.
Okay. Karen, can you hear me okay?
Yep, but your video is off.
Yeah. I am not, it is not letting me turn my video on. I'm not sure, Zach, if you're able to do that as meeting organizer.
I think it's okay to go ahead.
Okay. I will keep moving. So, well, we are not advancing. Sorry, folks. There we
There we
go.
go.
Okay. Sometimes it's a little slow. So our agenda for today really is just to give a high-level review of existing programs and kind of highlight any changes that are expected for 2026, to preview new programs that are coming down the pipeline for 2026, and then talk about any application changes that may affect applications you may be considering. So this will be high level just to keep moving and get through the material. But at the end of the presentation, we have given contacts if you have questions about particular programs, and we would love for you to follow up with us. So just to recap programs that we know will be returning for CDBG for 2026, the Upper Story Housing Program, the Downtown Revitalization Program, Community Facilities Program, and the Water Sewer Program, which some of you have just heard about, will be returning for 2026 in some iteration, and we'll talk about each of those a little bit. So upper story housing is intended to help communities to create additional housing by converting upper story space to affordable housing for their citizens. And up to 100,000 can be awarded per unit for that program, up to a maximum of 4 units, so total award maximum of 400,000. And those units will need to be occupied by households that are earning at or below 80% of area median income, and that will vary a little bit depending on what county you're located in. Okay, so again, with that low and moderate income benefit requirement, there is a 5-year affordability period involved.
And would it be safe to say, Paula, that we see this most often applied in a downtown setting where there might be housing above a retail store?
Correct. Yes, absolutely. So moving on to downtown revitalization, we believe this is going to be getting a little bit of a rebrand in 2026 to the commercial facades program. So you may hear it referred a little bit interchangeably for the next year or so while that transition's happening. But this is a program that's intended to help communities to improve areas in their downtown that maybe have seen some deferred maintenance or need a little bit of love. And to that end, the typical award maximum is generally 650,000. We have not heard that there will be changes this year. It's focused on making exterior improvements to those commercial buildings that eliminate slum and blighting conditions. So where most programs require a benefit to low and moderate income households or individuals, this program focuses a little bit on the conditions more than income levels. It requires improvements to both front and side facades if they're both visible. And this is a little bit different from past years where the focus was primarily on that front-facing facade. It requires the community to identify a downtown target area that they identify in their application and then provide information to support that blight designation. It requires the following of a design guide that's provided by IEDA, and IEDA will review the plans. There is a requirement that communities have a historic survey in place at the time that they apply, and there's a program we'll talk about a little bit later in the presentation that can provide some support for that. But it is expected that there's a historic survey that's been done to identify any historic buildings. And then building owner certifications are required at application. So IEDA is really looking to make building owners more involved in the process going forward for this particular program. And then we understand this year there may be some bonus points available if there's a structural engineering report that's been completed and can be provided with the application. And this program is really worth a deeper dive. So there will be an upcoming Turbo Talk, and you'll see at the bottom of the slide, we've made a plug for that. So tune in if you're interested on February 24th. The next program we'll talk about is the Community Facilities Program. And in the past, that's been kind of a rolling application that can be submitted anytime throughout the year. With 2026 funding, that will no longer be the case. There will be a set application window, and these applications will be scored competitively against all other applications received at that time. And the typical award maximum here is $600,000. And there will be some targeted facilities that will receive higher scoring in 2026. And those facility types include senior centers, community centers, facilities for people with disabilities, homeless shelters, which cannot include permanent housing, daycare centers, and facilities for mental health or physical health. And for all of these program types, at least 51% of the clientele served need to be, again, at or below 80% of the area median income. And that's determined through a client survey, except for a couple of notable exceptions. If we're talking about a hospital or a clinic, that may be able to use area data. If you can define a service area, you may be able to determine that through census data. Or there are a few categories that are presumed to benefit low and moderate income individuals. So if the facility serves seniors, people who are experiencing homelessness, or persons with severe disabilities, then those are presumed to have a low and moderate income benefit because those populations are generally presumed to be very low income. Moving along to water sewer, I will not spend a lot of time on this because we did just have a Turbo Talk on this topic, but some notable changes for this year include stormwater is added to the eligible activity list for this program. And there will be 2 application cycles in 2026, one in the spring and one in the fall. And our understanding is really that the fall application round is intended for projects that were already kind of in the hopper, but may not have been funded in the spring. So, applications will be accepted, but I think that's the intent of the fall round. And then other program elements remain unchanged for that program. And now we're going to move on and forecast some of the new programs that are going to be available in 2026. And those include pocket parks, streetscapes, planning grants, a housing rehabilitation program. Some of you may remember that used to be an option, but the critical distinction here is that roofing is the only eligible activity for this iteration of the program. And then finally, public services. So the first program, Pocket Parks, the activities that are eligible include rehab or new construction of a small park or recreation area. For overall funding available in this fund, the amount is $620,865. And the maximum award per project is $150,000. So that gives you kind of a sense of how competitive these will be. There is a 25% match requirement. Professional design services will be required for any work done on the park. And then depending on the activity, there may be some ADA accessibility components. And then this will be true of several of the programs that we're talking about, but IEDA has stressed that if this is located in a downtown city center, Main Street support for the project is really critical. Moving along to streetscapes, eligible expenses for this program include streets, curbs and gutters, street lights, benches, sidewalks, street trees, and street signs. And the total amount available in this particular fund is just over $1 million, as you'll see there. And the award maximum per project will be $250,000. In order to qualify for this program, a community will need to have previously had a downtown revitalization award and successfully closed that grant out. So it's really kind of intended to supplement those downtown revitalization improvements for communities that have been through that process already. There is no matching requirement for this program. Professional design services, again, will be required for this activity. And again, Main Street support will be really important for the application if it's located in your downtown city center, which presumably it will be. And the next activity is planning grants. So this particular bucket of money is intended to help communities to develop plans that will really support future CDBG applications. So the types of eligible activities include historic district surveys, which we talked about earlier in the presentation. It also includes asset management plans and capital improvement plans to the extent that they can be tied to a future CDBG application. And it's really just a small amount of funding available in this category, a little over $60,000 with an award maximum of $15,000. And if you are awarded a planning grant, then documentation of the city council's approval for your final plan will need to be submitted to IEDA. This brings us to the Housing Rehabilitation Roof Replacement Program, and eligible expenses here are limited to roof repairs and then lead paint remediation that may be required in order to comply with HUD's lead safe housing rule, which applies to nearly all projects. The target housing here is single family homes, and the amount of funding available in total for this fund is $905,037 with an award maximum of $30,000 per unit this year, up to a maximum of 6 units for a total award maximum of $180,000. It is our understanding that IEDA plans to monitor how this first year goes, and that award maximum amount may be different in future years, but for this year it will be $30,000 per project.
If I could chime in here, Paula, I think
Sure.
most of you may know, but we have probably one of the largest, for a council of government, we have one of the largest housing departments here at ECICOG. So we're well positioned to do a grant such as this roof replacement grant. So if there are communities on the call that are interested in this program, please reach out sooner rather than later.
Great, thank you. This activity, like all housing activities with CDBG, does need to directly benefit households earning at or below 80% of area median income. So those homeowners, when they apply to the program, would need to demonstrate that they qualify. And then there is a period of affordability or retention. Basically, the property would need to retain the property for a period of years that's typically secured by a deed restriction. And there is no matching requirement for this program. This brings us to the Public Service Fund. And again, this is a pretty new activity this year for IEDA. This particular program targets homeless service providers and food pantry operations. And the types of expenses that are eligible here are really those expenses that are necessary to sustain the operations of programming. So those would include staffing, utilities, maintenance, insurance, purchase of supplies and materials, Again, all to the extent that they support program operations. So no rehab and no construction with this program, although those activities might qualify under a community facility project. So the amount available here is about $1.2 million with an award maximum of $100,000 per project activity. And there is a matching requirement of $5,000 for this program, which can be in the form of cash or in-kind contributions. One thing to note here is that these funds, because CDBG is not intended to supplant any local funds, this would need to be a new or increased service level. So if you have someone in the community looking to start new operations that would provide either services to the homeless or food pantry operations, this would be a good fit. Or if you have someone who's already providing services and they're looking to increase the level of service that they're providing in the community, then this could also help to pay that difference. For all activities here, procurement and inventory tracking is required. So if the funds are used to purchase equipment, you would need to track that equipment over time and ensure it's being used for the purpose intended. And if you're working with an agency service provider, then there would be a requirement that the community would have subrecipient agreements with those providers to ensure that they're complying with all the program rules.
And that is a relatively new, I haven't seen that program in the 6 years, that type of program in the six years I've been with ECICOG. And so as an agency, I don't know that we necessarily have all the connections we maybe would like to have with the organizations that might be doing that type of work, particularly in our rural communities. So again, for those of you that are on the webinar today, if you're able to put us in touch, if you're aware of some of those types of organizations, we'd love to talk with them about the potential opportunity because we know that there's definitely a need out there.
Absolutely. So finally, stormwater, and we talked about this a little bit in conjunction with the water sewer program, but this is just noting, it's a little different activity under that overall umbrella, and eligible expenses here include storm sewers, storm drains, street drains, drainage facilities, and curb and gutter improvements that are associated with those things. The amount that's available, again, this is part of that overall water sewer fund, so it's not really budgeted separately. It would be an application scored competitively along with all of those other water sewer fund applications. The award maximum is the same, $500,000. And again, it requires engineer design services and an engineering study to be done to support the project. And it would follow all of the same requirements and processes as other water sewer activities. So hopefully, if that's something you're interested in, you were able to tune in earlier, but if not, we'll have the contacts for you here on a future slide. So this slide just gives an overview of the application cycles for 2026. So this will really kick off pretty shortly in early February, February 4th. We understand there will be a virtual application workshop for all of the new programs that are proposed this year, as well as the first round of water sewer applications. And March 2nd is when that application window will open in Iowa grants. And communities will have up until May 1st to submit their applications, after which they will be reviewed and scored. And then you'll see further down the list, there's an expectation that there'll be recipient workshops and grant administrator workshops for those successful applications held in July. And then backing up a little bit to returning programs, June 3rd for all returning programs and water sewer applications, there'll be a virtual application workshop. And then the application window will open July 1st in Iowa grants, and applications will be due September 1st, with successful applicants having recipient and grant administrator workshops November 4th and 5th. So that's the projected timeline for those two tracks.
And for everyone that's within the ECOG region, part of our role is to go to those workshops and to get the details about each specific program because writing and managing a federal grant is not for the faint of heart. It does require some specialized skills, and that's really what ECOG does. So again, if you just get in touch with us, we really will kind of walk you through the steps that you need to do to hopefully have a successful grant application. And then, John, I saw your question. I apologize. I didn't mention that at the beginning of this session, but we will email the slides as well as the recording probably tomorrow. And then we also post it on our website. So if you're curious about this session or any of our past TurboTalk sessions, you can always find it on our website.
Okay. And then finally here, we just have the list of contacts for all of these programs. So if you are interested in kind of community and economic development programs, including downtown revitalization, community facilities, pocket parks, or streetscapes, our staff contact for that is Tom Gruss, and you have his email address here. As Karen mentioned, the PowerPoint presentation will be sent out. And if you are interested in pursuing either of the housing activities, either upper story housing or the roof program, or if you're interested in the public service programs for homeless services or food pantries, I would be your contact. And you have my contact information there. I'd be happy to talk with you more. And then finally, for water, sewer, and stormwater projects, Megan Prestegard is the contact, and you have her contact information here as well. So as Karen said, any of us would be more than happy to talk through potential applications and answer more program-specific questions and follow up. And then we have a little bit of time, I think, for questions.
If anyone has any questions and you want to drop them in the chat, we're happy to take a stab at answering those during our remaining time. Otherwise, a question that occurred to me, Paula, as we were going through the slides, with respect to pocket parks, is there a way that is there an additional eligibility requirement for the community as far as low to moderate income?
Um, yeah, typically I think that would be determined on an area basis or through an income survey. So yes, I think there would be low and moderate income requirements for that.